Counterattacks are some of the most devastating cards in Unmatched. One good defense can flip a turn or end the game on the spot. And it's even worse when it happens to you. In this video, I'm counting down the top 10 defensive cards by their counterattack ability, which includes their defensive value, the strength of the counterattack, and how well they set you up for your next turn. So without any further ado, let's jump into our list. So we are actually going to start with an honorable mention, just falling short. It is a good card. You're just making her angry from T-Rex. So during combat, you may boost this card. After combat, if you won the combat, return this card to your hand. So the reason that it almost cracks our counterattack list, even though it doesn't have any counterattack ability per se, the after combat is kind of strong. By saying if you won the combat, you can return it to your hand, that means that you'll have more versatile cards to be able to actually attack with. So we find that to be advantageous, and the reason that we wanted to mention this T-Rex card. And also the art for it is pretty cool with those little teeth right there. So now let's get to number 10. So number 10 is the Ancient Leshen, Primeval Guardian. So it is a 5 value on defense, and during combat, your opponent discards the top card of their deck, add its boost value to their card's value. So, the reason that this isn't higher in terms of, wow, it has such a great defensive value, is that it automatically empowers your opponent to also have a high attack value. And then after combat, move each wolf up to 3 spaces. So we didn't want to leave this card out entirely. Being able to move the wolves into a better position is really good for counterattack, and it has such a strong defensive value. And also, by allowing the top card of the deck to be discarded from the opponent, it will lead to them maybe having some exhaustion sooner. So that's why we rank this at number 10. At number 9, we find Yanninga and the Shield Formation. So immediately your opponent may discard a card. If they don't, return a defeated archer to a space in Yanninga's zone. So this has a couple layers to it. First off, it has the defense value of a 3, so pretty strong. It has a boost value of a 3, so strong there as well. And then your opponent has a choice. They either discard a card, and as we mentioned, with the Ancient Leshen, by them discarding a card, they'll be closer to exhaustion. Also, in this instance, it'll be from the player's hand, so they'll have less to defend with on their turn. Maybe they'll discard a defense card or a versatile card. So some advantages there. And then let's say they don't discard a card, then you get to return a defeated archer. And knowing Yanninga's special ability, where the archers can take the damage in behalf of Yanninga, this is like a +2 health by bringing the archer on the board. And then finally, in addition to that +2 of health, you now will have the archer to attack with. So all around, it has some really good counterattack attributes, and that's why it comes in at number 9. So now we have 2 honorable mentions that don't really have counterattack abilities, but we wanted to put them in because, similar to Yanninga's card, there is an added health value to these defensive cards. So we have the Magical Barrier from Yennefer and Triss. Immediately your fighter recovers 1 health. So not only do you have protection of 4 on the defensive value, but you recover 1 health. So pretty strong card. And we also find the Genie has Back in the Lamp, where immediately the Genie recovers 4 health. It is a 0-point defense, but this card can really add health back to your counter if there's a very weak offense that's happening, a 1 or 2 point attack. The 0-point defense, you'll recover more health than you lost. So Back in the Lamp also getting honorable mention from the Genie. All right, it is time for number 8 on our list of counterattack defensive cards, and that is Hiss and Slither from Medusa. So it is a 4-point defense. After combat, your opponent discards one card. So as you can tell, we're kind of valuing this a little more than bringing an archer back on the board. It also does have a higher point value, which is why it's snuck in at number 8, just in front of Yennefer and Triss. It has that 4-point defensive value and your opponent discarding one card. As we mentioned, when you weaken the hand of your opponent, when they have less cards to play with, when your defensive turn ends and now you go on the attack, your opponent is going to have a harder time defending, and that is the counterattack that we are looking for. At number 7, we have the Invisible Man with Coded Notes. It's a 3-point defense value, but listen to this for its after combat. Draw 3 cards, then choose 2 cards from your hand and put them on top of the deck in any order. So assuming you already have a few cards in your hand, you'll add 3 and then choose 2 of those, which you might then at that point have 6, 7, 8 cards in your hand, and you can choose the best of those cards and put 2 that you don't like on top of the deck. So this can really set you up to attack for your next turn, because if you have maybe cards that aren't advantageous early in the game and you want to save them for later, maybe you're a melee fighter and adjacent to the opponent and you don't want to use some of the scheme cards. Maybe you have some defensive cards that you're willing to put back on the top of the deck because you'll attack and then maneuver and you'll draw that defensive card. There's just so many options to play with Coded Notes. And like I said, by being able to choose what's in your hand at the end of this defensive turn, you should be able to have a really powerful attack then on the offensive turn. And for that reason, Coded Notes comes in at number 7. For number 6, we actually have 2 fighters with the card called Do My Bidding. So we have Philippa and Dracula. So this is the only one on our list where 2 fighters have it, 2 heroes have that. And it has a defensive value of 3. The card is worded a little differently for both, and I think that's because Restoration Games just wanted to add more clarity, because an attacker can only attack with attack cards and versatile cards. So for that reason, we're going to read the guidance that's provided on Dracula's card. And it says, immediately return your opponent's attack card to their hand. Look at their hand and choose an attack or versatile card for them to play. It may be the same card. So that's what it says for Dracula. On Philippa's, it's a little different. It says return your opponent's card to their hand, look at their hand, and choose a card for them to play. So there's less ambiguity on Dracula's, where it says it has to be an attack or a versatile card for them to play. But again, the middle of this top 10 list are counterattacks that will set you up for the next turn. They don't necessarily do direct damage. So, at number 7, you were able to kind of pick the cards that you wanted with the Invisible Man, and so it set you up for your offensive turn. On this one, it's kind of the opposite. It allows you to kind of manipulate the cards in your opponent's hand for when it's your turn to play offense. So by being able to look at your opponent's hand, you know which cards you can and can really do a lot of damage with on your attack. And then from there, even if there is a card that you think is really good in the defense, if it's a versatile card, so a great example of this is the Feint card, you can then place back their offensive attacking card, pick out that Feint card, make them attack with the Feint. You won't take any damage because you have a 3 value here compared to the Feint that's a 2. And then you will know on your offensive turn that they can't cancel your effects. So it is just really great. And then, like I said, you know what your opponent has in their hand. And this card is even better to play on the second action of a turn, because if you do it on the first action of a turn, they might then move away, so they'll draw a card, and then you won't be able to attack right away. But if you are melee fighting and they're adjacent to you and they play this on the second action, then you know what is in their hand. They'll have 1 less versatile card to defend with, and you can attack twice knowing what they can and can't block. So this is probably one of the cooler counterattack defensive cards, as it allows you to manipulate your opponent, and we see it with Dracula and Philippa. All right, it is time to enter the top fives. At number 5, we have Golden Chainmail from Sun Wukong. It has a defensive value of 4 and a boost value of 2. During combat, any combat damage you would take is dealt to the opposing fighter instead. So this is classic counterattack. You block the hit coming in and deal it back to the opponent. And so some might be wondering, well, then why isn't it higher than top 5? This is great. You know, maybe you were going to take 3 points of damage and now the opposing fighter takes the 3 point of damage as well. And the only reason that it's not higher on our list is because the defensive value is so high on this card. So it's almost counterintuitive for the counterattack, because if you had a defensive value of 0 and they come with a 3 point attack, then they're getting 3 points of damage on them, and that's great. So the high defensive value actually means that there's very few cards where you're going to do damage to the opposing fighter. So for the most part, it's going to just be those 5 point, 6 point cards that very few fighters have. So it can be a really good counterattack for some of the powerful combat values. And then there's a nice little bonus to this that kind of sits outside of counterattacks, and that is you're not going to take combat damage with this card. So it's a great card to play because you won't be taking combat damage, and maybe you'll do counterattack damage. But that maybe is the whole reason that it's only number 5, because there's so few cards where you're actually going to be doing combat damage. At number 4 is Bruce Lee, Be Like Water. It has a defensive value of 3, a boost value of 4, and then after combat, choose a Jeet Kune Do card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. So as I was compiling this list, I almost skipped over this, but I was like, let me check out, those cards and see if this, could be considered as a counterattack card, because you're not doing any damage on this defensive turn. So it's kind of going to be a delayed counterattack. And that's because every Jeet Kune Do card gains an action. So by bringing a gain an action offensive card back into your hand, you automatically just get extra damage. And they are all 3 point values. So it is basically a guaranteed 3 points of damage as long as, the opponent isn't able to cancel the turn or something like that. And then furthermore, we have on Corkscrew Finger Jab, you get to deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter. Downward Sidekick, your opponent discards 1 random card. Intercepting Fist, you cancel all effects on your opponent's card. The Wrist Lock, you draw a card. High Straight Lead, if either fighter started the turn in a different space, the value of the card's actually 5, so that's one heck of a counterattack. And then Short Lead Hook, Bruce Lee may swap spaces with the opposing fighter. And all of those gain an action. So you usually get 2 actions. Maybe you are going to move, do some damage. That's, let's say, 3 points of normal damage. But by gaining an action, you now do 3 points of damage plus an additional 3 points of damage. And for that reason, by being able to go into your discard pile and bring one of these back, it is a really powerful counterattack. It's the first time that we've seen 3 points of damage. Even looking at our number 5 on the list with Sun Wukong, to get 3 points of damage would take a 7 value card. And, there's just not many fighters that have that high value of cards to go against Golden Chainmail. So with Bruce Lee, just really powerful to get that Jeet Kune Do back into your deck and be able to gain an action with it. So Be Like Water, number 4. At number 3, we have another card from Philippa. So Blinding Dust. It is only a 2 point defense value, but now we're getting into the counterattacks. After combat, you may discard 1 card. If you do, deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to its boost value. So this is a pure counterattack. You get to look through your cards and find one with a high boost value and deal the damage from it. So a little bit of a disadvantage that you are discarding a card from your hand, and it doesn't have the strongest defensive value. But for its pure ability to do damage on the defensive turn, You can end the game on the defensive turn, which is really fun. Your opponent, let's say, has 2 value left. Maybe you have, maybe you have 1 value left. They're beating you. They think, all right, I'll just play this 2-point card. It's not a strong attack, but maybe I can take them out of the game. You play this card with Philippa. You boost with something that maybe has a value of 3, and your opponent that had the 2-1 lead on their offensive turn ends up losing the game. So it can just be a really fun card. And the reason we put it ahead of Bruce Lee, which is number 4 on our list, is because Philippa does the damage on her defensive turn, whereas with Bruce Lee, you have to wait until it's your time to play offense to reap the rewards of the counterattack. So for that reason, Philippa can do 2 or 3 points of damage depending on the boost value on the defensive turn. Disadvantage, though, you do lose another card from your hand that you won't be able to use to either finish defending with on that turn or on your next offensive turn. All right, we're getting down to the last 2, and Lock the Doors from Dr. Sattler is number 2. Another 2-point defensive card, and after combat, deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. Move your fighter up to 2 spaces. So this has a few good things going on, but namely, you deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. So although with Philippa, you might be able to do 3 points of damage with a boost, you don't have to discard a card to use this. So the 2 points of straight damage are just a little bit more consistent. You don't have to risk maybe only, wasting a 1-point card and boosting with that. So the fact that you just deal 2 damage is great. And then there's another little counterattack bonus, and that's the ability to move your fighter up to 2 spaces, can put you in a better position for attack. Maybe you're defending against a sidekick and you want to move closer to the hero, who knows? But, being able to position yourself also sets you up for a good counterattack. So for the reason that it does 2 points of damage, you don't have to discard a card, it comes in at number 2 on our list. We've seen a lot of great cards today, and we're about to reveal the number 1 pick. Before we do, take a quick moment to subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it makes sure you don't miss future videos like this one. All right, now that you're in, here's our number 1 defensive counterattacking card. And it is the Equal of Grendel from Beowulf. It has a 3-point defensive value, and it says immediately you may spend 2 rage to deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to the printed value of their card. So this is such a great card for so many reasons. I'm going to start out with one of the less obvious reasons, and that is you may spend 2 rage. So if your opponent doesn't play a card worthy of spending 2 rage to deal the damage, then you can forego it. So if they play a 1-point or a 2-point attack, you don't have to spend the rage. If they play a very high value card, a 5-point attack maybe, then you can spend the 2 rage to deal damage. And then even more than that, what's really awesome is that they are going to take 3 more points of damage than you if they play an attack value of 3, 4, 5, 8 points. So, if they attack with, like I said, a 5-point card, yeah, you might take 2 points of damage, but they're going to be taking 5 points of damage on their own offensive turn. So this is the pinnacle counterattack card. It's why it comes in at number 1. Yes, you do have to spend 2 rage, but you have the option to or not. And in the high attack value cards, they're going to be taking 3 more points of damage than you. So, like I said, if it's, example here, it is, let's say 4-4, and they play a 5-point attack card, you put down the Equal of Grendel, well, guess what? You might be taking 2 points of damage, but they're taking 5 points of damage, wipes them out of the game since they only had 4 health to begin with, and you win the game on your defensive turn. This is just a really fun card. Yes, you both take, damage possibly if they play a super high attack, but just that take 2. Just that Schadenfreude. There we go. Take 3. Just that Schadenfreude of them thinking they have this really powerful attack and then it comes bursting back on them is just excellent. So that concludes our list. That is our top 10 unmatched defensive counterattacking cards. They always bring me so much joy when I'm on defense and so much pain when I'm on offense. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, that you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you at our next video. Thanks again.